Right. Hey, I'm gonna just make a quick video showing how to use memory techniques to memorize the book This is Marketing by Seth Godin. I read the book about a month ago. That was really good. And I think that a better strategy when you're learning a book, when you're using a book to learn information rather than just for enjoyment, is that you should use memory techniques before reading the book on the keynotes. Because oftentimes you'll listen to a point in a book, actually, well, 95% of the time, you'll listen to something in a book and um, you'll agree with it, you'll think it's really important, but you won't remember it. And just because you learned something at a time and you thought it was interesting doesn't mean you'll actually remember it. So I think going before actually reading the book, learning all the key points, going over them again and again and again, and keeping them in your mind is important before going into it rather than after. Because then when the information actually hits, when the emotional aspect of the book hits, it can be a lot more important to you and mean a lot more. So what we're going to do is go through the keynotes of the book and try to memorize these so that they can be a bit more useful for us. So the first step when using the Mind Palace or any proper memory technique is we're going to have to, I'm going to ask you to pick furniture that you'll use as places to store the information. So first thing to do, pick a friend's house, pick your house, pick any place that you haven't used before, and try to get, let's say, how many pieces of furniture? Maybe 20. Get 5 pieces of furniture per room, and yeah, maybe 4 rooms. So let's think, where am I going to pick? Okay, I'll pick my cousin's house. And I'll start I'll open the door and I see about 5 pieces of furniture that I can use. Sorry. Okay, so the first thing is effective marketing now relies on empathy and service, not selfish mass spam. This is something Seth Godin talks about a lot. So the way we'll do this is I'll imagine I walk into the first room, I see the table that is in the hall, and I'll think, right, effective marketing now relies on empathy and service. I think of Gary Vaynerchuk for empathy. That's like his whole thing, and he's like kneeling down and like giving something to someone because it's service. He's offering the service to them, and then locked up in a little cage is like someone who would spam people. So like a kind of old idea of a marketer, someone with all signs and shouting at people, kind of like the guy in The Simpsons, Lionel Hust or whatever you call him, or Old Gil, something like that. So he's in a cage. Gary is giving service to people, giving value, and that was kind of image on the first place. Second one, marketers offer solutions to problems other humans have and help them move forward. So then we'll move to the next piece of furniture. So imagine right now, go to the next piece of furniture that you've picked out, and the marketers offer solutions to problems. So who's a marketer? I first think Seth Godin, if you know what Seth Godin looks like, and they offer solutions to problems. So imagine someone with a problem. Who has a problem? So imagine someone has a broken leg. So imagine on the next piece of furniture, it's a couch for me. Someone has a broken leg, and Seth Godin is giving them a bandage and helping them, and then showing them a way forward to the next piece of furniture. So he's kind of guiding them, and yeah, that can be on the second piece of furniture. Right, so marketing in 5 steps. So this is a good one, actually. I especially a 5-step kind of plan thing. So this is particularly good with the Mind Palace. So on the next piece of furniture, we'll have the first step, which is to invent a thing worth making with a story worth telling and a contribution worth talking about. Okay, so invent a thing worth making. So next thing, I'll have Thomas Edison, and he's just like building a big light bulb with a hammer, and beside him with a story worth telling. So anyone who you think studies history, who's a good storyteller, they're writing the book of Thomas Edison beside them. So who's a history person? Or I have a friend who studies history. I'll use him, and he's sitting up on top of the chair. I'll be sitting here, Thomas Edison be here, you guys up on the top of the chair, and he's like writing a book beside about Thomas Edison, and a contribution worth talking about. And see, that's normally a line that you would normally skip because you wouldn't even think about it. But when you're doing memory techniques, it actually forces you to think about every single sentence and what it really means. So a contribution worth talking about. Alright, so you need to think of someone who contributes, and everyone is around talking about how much he's contributed. So if you have anybody you know who's like a real leader, maybe even you could use like Bill Gates, because he's like gives big contributions to like charity. So maybe on the side part of the chair, like the armrest, I have Bill Gates with like giving a big load of money, like with a big pile of money, and then there's people standing a bit far away talking about it and like just pointing at Bill Gates and stuff like that. So a contribution worth talking about. And all of these things are actually quite important to reflect on if you have read the book, and reflecting on them beforehand and what they really mean would really help with the understanding of the book. Anyways, so the next piece of furniture, which is the third one I have in this room, is the second step, is to design and build it in a way that a few people will particularly benefit from and care about. Design and build it in a way that few people will particularly benefit from. Okay, so think about someone who designs things. I know someone who designs things, a designer, and he's building, and you kind of like want to make it so that it looks like a design, not just like a building, and maybe like a big piece of art. He's like making it, and then a few people will particularly benefit from and care about. So when I was doing this previously, it's a big part of set codes and stuff is marketing to a smallest viable group, which is people who were really passionate about one specific thing. So I like to think about like cult members, people like in a cult, because they're very passionate about something fringe. So I imagine like cult members, and they're all like thanking the designer person who's designing this big cult statue for him. So design something that's for a very small amount of people, and that they really care about. So I think that gives the message off well. And if you just get to these last 5 steps even, the strength in which you have this stuff memorized is so much more valuable than even listening to the entire book and forgetting it all. So all of this is quite beneficial, I find. Right, the third step is to tell a story, and actually I think we might finish up when we get to around here or something. The third step is to tell a story that matches the built-in narrative and dreams of that tiny group of people, the smallest viable market. Right, so now on the television in that room, and once again you're going to the next piece of furniture. You don't care about what my piece of furniture is, you just do your own. The third step is to tell a story that matches the built-in narrative and dreams of that tiny group of people, the smallest viable market. Sorry. Tell a story that matches. Okay, so I'm going to use that same person, the storytelling person, and who does history, and he's standing up on top of the TV and he's preaching out to the room, and tell a story that matches the built-in narrative and dreams of that tiny group of people, the smallest viable market. Okay, so I have the cult around at the same time, and they're all in a circle below listening to him, and they have their little doctrine out, and it's like a little book, and so they're already built in narrative. That's what they already believe in. And then the guy who I know who tells stories standing on top of TV, and he's preaching out, but he's preaching out their doctrine. He's not preaching out his own. He's not trying to convince them of anything. He's preaching out their doctrine, and that's the important part of this. So try to really visualize in 3D, and go from furniture to furniture and put it in the way I say it, or if you think of something that you more quickly think about, you do that. But remember, everything's in 3D. Everything, try see it like a dolly cam, try see it in actual places, in an actual piece of furniture that you know. Right, so the next piece of furniture. The last step is often overlooked. Show up regularly, consistently, and generously for years and years to organize and lead and build confidence in the change you seek to make, to earn permission to follow up, and to earn enrollment to teach. Cool. Okay. So, on the next piece of furniture, I go into the next room, and there's a sofa there. And the last step is often overlooked. Show up regularly, consistently, and generously. Okay, so who shows up all the time? Okay, yes. I have an old rugby coach who I would think would never ever miss rugby training. And he would always show up. So I see him showing up, and he has a big presence, so it's generously. For years and years to organize and lead and build confidence in the change you seek to make. So, and the reason is to build confidence in the change you seek to make. So to have Martin Luther King there, because you want to make change, you want to have a goal, something you want to build, like an idea, and you want to make that change, and the reason you show up all the time is to accomplish this goal. You're not there just to make money, you're there to, marketing is more about making these sort of changes. So that was the whole point of the book. So Martin Luther King there, that's the reason to make change. Right, people like us do things like this. That's a really important part of the book. It's huge part of the book. And once again, going over these things kind of works. You just hear the words, but mind palancing them really is probably the strongest way you can put this information into your brain. It's just, you have to think so deeply about it to even come up with the images. What's really being asked here? Right, so people like us do things like this. And also means you have a list in your head where you can just tick them all off. So people like us do things like this is you kind of want to think like real tribalistic things. So things are very tribalistic, like, you know, like football players with their jerseys, or liberals or Republicans, or things people who are very, very tribal. So how about people like us? Maybe people with like MAGA hats, just because they're very visual, and they're like cooking up a barbecue or something. So people like us, like Americans or whatever, like to go out and have barbecues with their friends. I don't know, something like that. People like us do things like this. And there's like a guy, and he's American, he has a MAGA hat on, and he's cooking up a barbecue for his friends. Right? There's nothing political there. I just think a good situation like that. That's what people like us do. Okay, so that's on the next piece of furniture. And now I'm going to the next piece, which is in the kitchen, and it is the island unit. And yeah, it's the start of the island unit, and then the next piece will be the sink in the island unit, and then we'll move across to the window where there's no sink. Right. So the next one, keep going back to the question, who's it for? Okay, keep going back to the question, who's it for? Who is it for? How do I make an image out of that? Who is it for? Okay, so how about in the room? You're sitting up on the island unit, and there's a load of people, and there is just the one cult member sitting down in the middle of it, and there's an owl. And the reason why the owl, because owls say who. So, and the owl is trying to find the person, and they point to him, who is it for? So keep going back to the question, who is it for? And I find it's kind of important to have pictures for each why, who, how, because it can often be hard to distinguish what type of question was being asked. I use Stephen Fry, and not because it rhymes, just because it's like QI, he's on QI, he's the why kind of person. And yeah, for what, you could do like a light bulb because of what's. Anything really that comes up in your mind. So who, looking for the person for. Okay, focus on the smallest viable market. How far are we coming up to? I don't know. Alright, might do another 7 minutes maybe. That will either bring it to 10 minutes or 20 minutes. I wasn't keeping track. I think it's 20. Alright, focus on the smallest viable market. which is the smallest number of people you need to delight for them to tell others and lead your growth. Okay, so go over to the sink on the island unit. Well, I am in my head. You're going to the next piece of furniture. Focus on the smallest viable market. So once again, we're going to need the cult members here. So all the cult members are sitting up on the island unit around where the sink is, and I have like a binoculars or like a big telescope, and I'm focusing on them. And so I have it in sync, and I'm just focusing on them. And then that you need to light for them to tell others and lead your growth. Okay, so I'm going to use another piece of furniture now. I'll go over to the window because there's too many things happening here. So I'll use one line for two different pieces of furniture. And I'm going to imagine them, all the cult members, and they're talking with all their friends all over the table by the window. And they are, there's like a plant that's growing with you on it. Because like they're like watering it and they're growing it, and that's the whole point. You want the idea that your smallest viable group are growing you. You aren't growing yourself. And yeah, so imagine all the cult members around watering a plant that's growing, and you're on top of the plant and they're growing you. So that's what I do. Right. So next piece of furniture. I'm going to move over to the other side of the kitchen. And up to like the presses. There's like presses up there, so yeah. Alright. Think of your prospects as students. And then ask questions like, where are your students? What will they benefit from learning? What will they tell others? Okay, so there's 3 questions here. And well, for me, my prospects are students, so it's hard to think of this question in a more metaphorical sense, but right. Think of your prospects as students. Then ask questions like, so I'll imagine I'm standing up on the table, and I open it up and there's like kids in there who are little students and they're taking notes. There's kids up in the wardrobes. Then ask questions like, where are your students? And then I'll go to the next room. So I'm going to use another piece of furniture, and when I open the place, there's like a little creche. But like all the students are gone and they're hiding. Like, where are they? And I'm looking for them. I'm looking under boxes and stuff. Then I go out the door and I'm going outside. So the next piece of furniture is like a kennel. And what will they benefit from learning? What will they benefit from learning? Okay. So I'll see one kid on the ground learning, and another kid standing up with a trophy. So that's his benefit. He's benefiting that from learning. And then we'll go into the shed, next piece of furniture. What will they tell others? What will they tell others? So then all the kids are just in the shed gossiping away. And alright, a template. A template's important. So we'll learn this, we'll finish that off, and then you should have a good grasp of what the book is kind of about. At least. Alright, so here's the template. And also, even this information up until now, this is so extremely important. I've been listening to so much Seth Godin, and if you actually just have all this information learned off, even up to just there, you actually have just such a massive chunk of the stuff that he kind of goes on about. So yeah, let's keep going. Alright, here's the template, 3 steps you promised you can run with. Alright, I'm going to need to go back into the house and start going upstairs. Oh no, wait, I can pretend there's a door into the back way. Alright, I'm going to make up a door into a room that doesn't exist. So, whatever. Alright, so now I'm in a bedroom. And here's a 3-step marketing promise you can run with. Right, so a promise. We're having a promise here. So what's the image for a promise? How about think of someone who broke a promise, or think of someone who always promises things. Yeah, anyone. I can think of someone, so I have them up, and they're on the side bed thing, side table for beside the bed. Right, my product is for people who believe blank. So I have me with a big present that's from the product, and I'll have a load of like people in a cult. They're standing around a big holy cross, maybe, even though like cult members, anyways, they're standing around a big holy cross, and I'm saying, and I have a product with maybe a holy cross on it. So it's for people who believe in this. So believe in certain thing. Belief is very important. We'll focus on people who want. So okay. So in the next room, I'll focus on people who want. People who want to think more of like a businessman. So imagine a businessman in the next room with a big pile of cash, and I'm there with a telescope focusing on him from far away. So focus on people who want something. My product is for people who believe in blank. It's called members. I will focus on people who want something else. And I promise that engaging with what I make will help you get blank. Okay. So I go into the next room again. I'm using one image per room here because there's not too much to work with, and I don't know the rooms that well. So I'm skipping a few rooms as well that I don't know in their house. I'm going straight into the bathroom. And I promise that engaging with what I make will help you get. So will help you get blank. Okay. How do I imagine someone getting something? Okay. How about I don't want to reuse the cash thing, you know, that just seems a bit like, getting money. I know wanting and getting. So I think like getting like abs or something like that, getting a good body. So I'll imagine I'm shaking hands with someone in the bathroom at the start. They're really skinny, and then they're over in the bathroom. He's standing up there and he's real muscular. So it'll help you. I promise that engaging with me, and that's it, will help you get blank. And there's a nice advertising strategy. A 3-cent marketing promise. Interesting. Okay. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there for now because this is the first one of these I've done. It's quite long. We got to here, and there's so much value there. So much value in that. Like, even trying to compress an entire book into this kind of much of a thing, it shouldn't work as well as it does. But so much of a book can just be boiled down into 5 minutes or so. And the only reason why it doesn't work to learn normally is because you're not using memory techniques to memorize them literally word for word. And if you do memorize them word for word, there's no reason why you can't just memorize books like this. It can be a bit boring, but as long as you have someone here to do it with you, and if you at least get the first start of it done, it gives you a blueprint to run off. So this is the first one of these. If you want more of them, tell me.